In this video, I will talk about the addition and multiplication rules. The general addition rule says the probability of A or B is equal to the probability of A plus the probability of B minus the probability of A and B. If A and B are mutually exclusive, then the probability of A and B is 0. So the rule can be simplified into the probability of A or B equal to the probability of A plus the probability of B. We use the addition rule when we're dealing with A or B. For example, let's say you wanted to calculate the probability that you planned or purchased. We looked at this example before. So in order to calculate this, we would calculate the probability that you actually plan to buy a TV. That would be 250 over 1,000. Then the probability that you actually purchased a TV, which would be 300 over 1,000. We're going to subtract off the probability that you planned and purchased to buy a TV. That would be within the table, and that would be 200. Okay, so we get 350 divided by 1,000, which is 0.35. A conditional probability is the probability of one event given that the other event has occurred. When you see the straight line in between these two variables, this means given that. So this will be read probability of A given that B has already occurred. So to calculate this, this will be the probability of A and B divided by B, probability of B. And the same thing, the probability of B given A is the probability of A and B divided by the probability of A. A and B, the probability of those will be a joint probability. The probability of A is a simple probability as well as the probability of B. So let's say we wanted to calculate the probability that you actually purchased a TV given that you plan to buy a TV. So we're going to calculate purchased and planned. That will be 200 over 1,000. We're going to divide that by the probability that you actually plan to buy a TV. That will be 250 over 1,000. So when you simplify the fractions, you get 200 divided by 250, which is 0.8. Two events are independent if and only if the probability of A given B is equal to the probability of A. This means that when the events are independent, the probability of one event is not affected by the fact that the other event has occurred. Let's check to see whether or not these two are independent. We're going to calculate the probability that you purchased a TV given that you have planned to purchase, and then the probability that you purchase a TV. So we already calculate purchase given plan. We said that was 0.8. The probability that you actually purchased a TV is 300 over 1,000. That gives me 0.3. Since these two are not equal, that means these two events are dependent on each other. The general multiplication rule says the probability of A given B is equal to the probability of A and B divided by the probability of B. So you want to solve for the probability of A and B, and that will be equal to the probability of A given B times the probability of B. If two events are independent, then the probability of A and B is calculated as the probability of A times the probability of B. We use the multiplication rule when we have the word and. So we can calculate marginal probabilities using the general multiplication rule. For example, let's say we wanted to calculate the probability that you plan to purchase a TV. That would be calculated as the probability of A given B, B1 being purchase, B2 being no purchase. So you're going to calculate the probability of A given B, which is 200 over 300. And we got that because we're looking here. 200 divided by 300. times the probability of B that you actually purchased, which would be 300 over 1,000. You can also calculate the probability that you plan to buy a TV but you did not purchase. That would be 50 over 700 times the probability that you did not purchase. Probability that you did not purchase will be 700 over 1,000. Once you calculate out these fractions, you get an answer of 0.25. Okay, so once again, the probability of A or B deals with the addition rule. That's when you're dealing with or. Probability of A and B deals with the multiplication rule.